Hello everyone and welcome to another SkaredCast video. I'm Skari, your grateful host, and with me today we have the wonderful Lionel from 10th Planet or X Planet Games in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. This video is going to be an interesting take, a look at team-based events, namely Age of Sigmar. We're going to explain a little about how they work and how you can participate in one that's happening recently, because Lionel here is helping run the TGX Age of Sigmar team event extravaganza, which is happening which is happening November 5th and 6th in Mississauga, right at the Sandman Hotel, which is right off the highway, which is really easy to get to. And it's happening soon. So how can people sign up for this? It's 16 teams that are going to be signing up for this, for Age of Sigmar, 5-person teams. And take it from me, team events are the most fun to play. And we're going to break down how it works and sort of like the mechanics of playing at a team event with an Age of Sigmar feel. But how can people get involved? Like, if they want to like get 5 friends together and go down to the TGX, how can they get involved?
Well, first off, the team as a concept in the AOS community isn't as common. It's just not something that a lot of events have happened along those lines. It's usually something that happens in Europe or occasionally in the States. Now, for 40K, it's a different story. 40K has got an enormous amount of foundational presence in the history of the game. So first off, wrapping your head around what the heck a 5-person team is I think, something worthwhile talking about, introducing everyone to, right? Because everyone's used to like 2-player teams where Ridvan, if you
like
and I
doubles.
were doing a 2-player team,
like double.
You and I would be at the same table on one side versus 2 other suckers across the board, right? While you ground and pound them, right? But
my brother and I used
team,
to go. We used to speak Spanish to each other the whole time. It was like secret language.
Code. Well, you can't do that in teams, by the way.
I know. This is like way back in the day when there wasn't like etiquette for teams.
No cheating.
I remember Ricky Johnson getting really upset at me for speaking Spanish at the table with my brother when we played doubles back in the day. Anyway, yes, it is different than doubles. It's you got 5 friends, and we're going to talk about team composition because and kind of how it works. And then we're going to talk a little bit about going through a pairing and how to do like a pairing process and how that works, so that all of you who are curious can figure out. And if you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment down below and we'll be answering those questions and let you know a little bit more about team-based events. So tickets are available, of course. You can check out the link below. And there's 16, well, less than 16 spots by now. So
there is less than 16 spots. Yeah, we have 6 spots left. You can get the tickets at TorontoGamingExpo.com. Like Ridvan said, he'll have the link below so you can
check it out.
Just the tickets. Yeah, exactly right.
A weekend worth of games.
5-person
well
teams.
Worth it. Yes, 5-person teams.
5-person teams.
How does it work?
Is different. So we grab our buddies and we're all together. And what happens is, first, there's a whole entire pairing process that happens. But you want to talk about roles on the team first before you
So let's talk about list composition. So you grab 5 friends, and one of the key things about a team event is that you cannot use the same battle tome / codex more than once for each team.
Nor can you use the same war scroll / data slate.
So you can't have like 2 death players playing a gash or whatever. It's like you can't use
across players, right? So so if one player has a Crown Spine, that one player has it, no one else does.
Yeah.
It goes with command traits, or I should say, it does go with command traits too. No, forget I said that. It goes with artifacts.
Yep.
Or relics for 40K.
Oh, really? So like the universal artifacts, you can only pick each universal artifact once? That's fantastic. I love that. That's really cool.
It really makes things
only one arcane tome. Only,
Only one
like,
arcane tome.
that's really
You got
interesting.
it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
In 40K, there's not like universal relics. So I could see how like there's not a universal relic. There's a universal command trait, but nobody uses the warlord trait that's the universal
No,
warlord trait because it's
you'd always use
that's
your codex
silly.
ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's actually really neat. But now, one of the key things about this, and one of the things that makes me so excited about team events, is that only one player in each team can have the busted faction.
Well, more or less. So first off, there's 5 players. All of you play individually against 5 other opponents across the table on 5 different tables. So you're not playing, 5 versus 5 in the sense that we're all on the same side facing off against 5 other guys. No, no, no. We're solo. We're siloed to each table.
Yeah.
And off we go. So as in any team, and then what Riven more or less suggested, implied, more or less underlined, is you cannot have a team of 5 of the absolute best armies, because ideally, at least from a balanced game perspective, there aren't 5 broken armies in the game.
Yes.
There's going to be 2-ish, maybe 3, but most of the time historically it's been about 2. And then the rest of the guys are going to be more or less trying to I'm going to get some A+ or B list, B type tier armies on the team.
Yeah.
But that is really not always the case, because the wonderful thing about meta of team play is you're able to skew a little harder than you would normally in solo play.
Yep. You're not. You can plan to avoid specific things that if you were to go into a singles tournament, you would have to plan to play them and build tools into your list to deal with a horde, or to deal with mortal wounds, or to deal with something that would just be tough for you normally. When a team event, we'll get to how that works. You can create a list that doesn't have to play against Sons of Behemoth, right? And be like, as long as I don't play against Sons of Behemoth, I'm good, right? I can deal with anything. Just try not to get me to play the Sons of Behemoth player or whatever
Exactly.
it is. Yeah.
And we're gonna like Ruben said, we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But you could skew a little harder. You could also dive into the toolbox of all the armies a bit deeper than you would normally, because you're able to do those pairings in the hands of a really capable captain or good team in general. You could pair better, which actually unlocks some very interesting other army choices. Yeah. Like, for instance, you could go like a really heavy Gloomspite Guild gets build, or what's another one? Even actually Cruel Boys,
you could do
which
like
are not.
Hedonites of Slaanesh or something, and kind of have a very
You could do
like
Hedonites.
geared. You could do like a very, and I think one of the things that even works in like 40K teams is once you've kind of picked the like go facto, like we need, this very powerful list or whatever, just to make sure we have it. Correct. You can bring on faction specialists. Folks that have been playing one army and only own an army, and all they know is one army because they know it well, right? And the value of someone who knows a faction well in a team event is exponential, right? Because they tend to squeeze the nuances of playing with that faction, and they know what their bad matchups are. They know what they struggle against. And as long as they have very good awareness, you can put them into stuff that they're comfortable with, and they can do well with it.
To expand upon what you said, you get your faction specialists, which basically know their army inside out, know the nuance of it, understand how their army works in all sorts of different various missions. They don't have to dwell upon it. And during that journey to get them to that point, they've already played all sorts of players and armies. And so they have a really good grasp and knowledge of not only their army, but their army in the context of the game.
Yeah.
And those guys are almost always, which is a good way to segue, not always, but almost always, great defenders. So in the concept of teams, we typically there's roles that are assigned to players. Now, this isn't public information. It's not like you put this on your.
No.
On
this
your,
is a defender. this is an attack
Yeah,
this is a flex list. No. These are
exactly.
concepts. These are concepts that have been developed for team play that we use freely, and they have a meaning that relates to the development and play style of a list within a team. So when we say a defender, or when we say an attacker, or a flex list, or a skew list, we're talking about a very set parameter within which that list is sort of built, usually. However, creative list builders can make defensive lists look like attacking lists, or like they can get creative, which then increases that sort of tactical play, right? Makes it different.
Exactly.
So when we say defender list, what is the role of a defender?
So again, right? 3 roles.
Yep.
Typically 3 roles.
Yep.
And again, we're talking 5-person team. The difference between 5 and an 8-person worlds team is very, very different.
Yes.
You get a lot more granular in an 8-person team, whereas in a 5-player team, you typically would go with basically 3 roles. There's a defender, there is the attacker, and of course the attacker defender, or as Ridman called the flex position, or shortstop, however you want to call it.
Yep.
So let's talk about defender. First off, no role is more important than any other. All of them are super critical to the team. They have just different burdens, different responsibilities that they got to complete.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest concepts of team play is the guy who doesn't lose by a lot. And people get, what do you mean? What, his goal is to not lose or to not win? Like, why wouldn't he just win? It's because in reality, when you're a defender, you get pushed forward and you basically stick out your chin and you're just presented with whatever's in front of you.
Yeah.
Guess what? The odds of victory are not great, which means the person's role really actually becomes all of a sudden about potentially jumping on landmines or to basically not lose by a lot. Obviously, if they win, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Because the other team is going to be cooperating. They're going to be sending in some hard choices your way. And if you could pull off a victory after they've already given you hard choices, that's just. Yeah. But in general, the defender is there to lose by not a lot, to score 9 points for the team.
Now we'll talk about differential huge. And how scoring works.
Exactly.
But when we say 9 points, it just means losing by a margin of, I don't know what it is in AOS for
2 to 3. It's about the same.
Yeah, in 40K it's by 5s. So every 5 points difference, it's a point. If it's 2 or 3 in Age of Sigmar, I could see that because it's less. There's less scoring in Age of Sigmar in that sense. It's not by 100.
It's not as intense.
Correct. Yeah. So, what is an example of a defender list, like a traditional defender list? I have one in mind, but I want to know what you would say.
I mean, it would be in the same concept that you would understand it, right? It would be something that's a brick wall, something that
it's faction specific, like a faction specific build that would be considered a defender list in the most traditional sense.
Typically, a Suns list, a Fire Slayer list. Guys who do very, very well, and I'll use a 40K term, that do very, very well in primary. They score constantly with the primary. Yeah. They're always in there trying can score their secondaries, I guess, in essence, or their battle tactics really, really well.
Also robustness. When I think defender list, one of the lists that pops out to me the most is the 60 Plague Bearer list that you and I played not too long ago, where it's just a bunch of Nurgle, tough infantry that just swarms the table with demon support that makes it hard to deal with, and no matter what army you're playing against, it's just going to clog up the mid board and get onto the objectives and make it hard for your opponent to get you off them, right? And that's how that list works. It just scores its points, and it's on your opponent to try and kill you, right? If that makes sense.
Yes, but now I don't want to make it sound like it's a simple thing, because it's actually Not quite.
Correct.
So once you start getting into defenders and you're trying to score as well as you possibly can, your knowledge of the game, because of the fact that you're the one that's always presented 1st, your actually knowledge of the game has to be really deep.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that defenders are always the best players on the team.
Yep.
Because that's not always the case. But they have to be very, very good and very, very knowledgeable. Why? Because you just don't know what they're going to be encountering. You don't know. And they need to constantly adapt. And that only comes with knowledge of the game in general.
Yeah.
And great play in general as well. Because you're right. If you could pull off a win, that would just be mind-blowing. But to get
you can't
those,
let it get away from you. You can't let it snowball.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And in Age of Sigmar, if you've played Age of Sigmar, like anything can happen at any point where you get like double turned and you lose like 40 plague bearers in 2 turns or something crazy, and they're like, uh-oh. You know what I mean? So you have to be you have to know what you're doing. It's not for the faint of heart. Being a defender is not easy. You know, I recently went to the World Team Championship with Team Canada for Warhammer 40,000, and I was playing a defensive Dark Eldar build, which is not a traditional Dark Eldar. Dark Eldar like to normally go kill stuff, but I was playing a very defensive build. And the mentality of that is knowing you're going into tough matchups, and you have to be very you can't despair, because it sometimes feels like you're just it's like you're losing the whole time, right? And it's not easy to navigate those feelings and keep your head straight and cool to make sure you're still not making mistakes and not losing points where you shouldn't be losing points, and making sure you're scoring as much as you can, which is the same with any defender.
Absolutely. And every point you scrape is 1 point less.
Yep.
That takes off the pressure off of the attackers on your team.
Correct. So talking about attackers, great segue, by the way, again. Talking about attackers, what is the role of an attacking list?
All right, so the defenders are the foundational part of the team where everyone tries to basically build off of. The attackers also have responsibility, because often the attackers are playing armies that are, well, as the kids say, S tier, or at least at minimum A+. You're talking the absolute pinnacle spear tip of the meta, and their job is to score. There is no other way to put it. They not only have to win their games, but their job is to win by a significant margin. And that is its own pressure. It's not like, I'm a defender. All I have to do is just lose by as little as I can. That's no big deal. No, it's a big deal. The attackers who are playing all these spectacular armies now, of course, well, you got the spectacular army. You now need to perform. That is it. Simply put, they need to perform. And again, because of the way they are placed, they are typically placed in ideal situations.
Yeah.
The captains often place them in matchups where the odds are favorable, either because of the matchup of army or because of the scenario, whatever it may be. But typically, their role is elevated, helped by the fact that they're matched up well, on top of course, them playing amazing armies to begin with.
Right.
But that's because their role is to score, and they need every single little inch of advantage.
So armies that have, for example, in Age of Sigmar, great battle tactics that are easy to score, right? Armies that can do a lot of damage, that are hard hitting, that have flexibility and wasted damage, or just strong rule mechanics. So
a great one are usually Alpha Strike armies,
right? That can just hit you hard and hit you and put you down, right? And kind of like hit you so hard that it's hard for you to come back. So what is a good example faction or build that you would say would be a traditional, I have one in mind as well, but a traditional attacker style army?
Well, a good Alpha Strikey type style army would have been Stormcast.
The dragons?
Yeah, dragons, log strikes when they were the rage.
Yeah. Like living cities,
The
even like with the.
living, you got it. Yeah, living cities with
I might not play a lot of
ambushing
AOS,
and
but
dragon.
I know what's good.
Those type of lists are really about. Typically, they're one drop lists as well. Not always, but
To get the control, like
typically one drops. Yeah,
see, I would have said something like Daughters of Cain, right? Like that style of build as well. I find that they're they're killy, mainly as well because they have lots of good secondary picks. But that was like
they
3 months
good.
ago. I feel like they're more of a flex pick now because they can kind of do both. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
if my spidey senses would go off, but traditionally it'd be like, just if I go first, you can't hide. I've got 40 Lumineth archers and or whatever back when they were like all the rage, and just be like, and I go first and I murder you or whatever it was.
you got it.
Yeah. Okay.
You got it.
So
So
ringing
now we
it.
got the defender, the attacker.
Okay. So let's shoehorn in the flex list here. What is the role of a flex list, or one that can kind of do is a robust list that can kind of do both. Usually played by a more experienced player, because they have the ability to sort of adapt more to the situation as it stands.
As you've already kind of alluded to, all positions are super important. Experience is valued across all of them. The flex is usually the role of the flex is usually to get the team out of a jam. So what does that mean? It basically, you build your team, and it's a combination of various things, right? You grab your team because these are your best friends and you want to spend time with them. You grab your team because that's what the armies are available, and there it is. So you've made your composition, but there's going to be other teams where maybe their composition of players really counters a lot of what your team has, especially on your defender side. So usually the guy who's on the flex is your kind of get out of jail free card, so to speak. The person where the captain is like, oh man, both our defenders kind of suck into this team. We got to pivot, and that's usually the responsibility of the flex player, right? The attacker defender. They are good at scoring. They are good at keeping games super tight. Overall,
and
S-tier
they can
armies
keep gas in the
can
tank.
fall
I
into
think
this
I
category.
think that's super
Yeah.
important. Is they can play
Yes.
sort of like defensively. They don't overcommit. They kind of score their points, but they always have something in their back pocket in case their coach comes up and says, "Hey, Joe, our attacker, just lost, and he was supposed to win that matchup. You
Which
need
is
to try and
huge,
make up
right?
those points. Their
Yeah.
defender pulled through, so you need to go." And they usually have something in the tank that can go, okay, now it's like go time, and I need to score as many points as possible. So the flex
You got it.
player has that responsibility, whereas the defender, you don't want to lose by big. You want to kind of hold the attackers and kind of stop them from doing their thing. And then the attacker is more like score big, crush the enemy, like table them as quickly as possible, and just get all your points, that sort of thing. So there you have it. Now, we talked about it before. You and I come from a World Team Championship style gameplay, which is 8-person teams. So you take that 5-person mechanic and expand it by that many more factions and that many
And it's
more
way more fast
variables and that many more.
Yeah.
So it gets really complicated. But in 5, you can have 2 defenders, 2 attackers, and a flex. You can have 3 defenders and 2 attackers. You can have 2 defenders and 3 attackers, or all. I've seen people do all 5 flex. If you just want to play like a, luck of the draw sort of style. And the way that you get these lists to achieve their purpose is through the pairing process. So
exactly.
One of the last things we want to do today is break down how we're going to pair 2 teams, 2 completely fictional teams. Of course, mine's the best. Mine's the best team. It's the
version of the best,
obviously. And we're going to basically do a quick little team breakdown. So we're going to explain how it works.
Pairing.
Yeah, we're going to explain the process, and we're going to explain, so that you have a better understanding of how it works. So if it's something that suits you or you'd like to try out, come and try it out. So first thing that happens is two teams come together, right? And they're paired up, and there's a row of 5 different tables. And each table, now in AOS, how are the tables set up? Is it the same mission for everybody? Is it a different mission for every table? How does that work?
Yeah, phenomenal segue. So what we did with our AOS team event is we want to bring in a little piece of table choice so that it mattered. Unlike in 40K, AOS has terrible terrain rules. It is very, very ambiguous, just irrelevant. Like it doesn't really impact the game in a massive way. Okay. So in 40K, usually there are 3 different types of broad tables, right? There's a light table, a mid table, or a dense table. Yeah. And of course, those tables are going to affect how armies perform on them, right? Yes. It's just a really super cool aspect of play, right? It's another layer that as a captain and a team you have to take into consideration, right? You want your Tau army typically on the light table
with 2 craters
so
in the hill.
Huge lines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my table. Right, where you want your Blood Angel guy and buried deep in the urban jungle.
All the L's just dodging. You can hope for, jumping from L to L. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, and that's what you want. So how do we kind of capture that very cool nuance of 40K team play in AOS when you have such poor terrain rules? So what we did instead is we used the mysterious terrain rules for AOS on the table. So what does that mean? We kind of boiled down the mysterious terrain to 3 what we thought were very relevant and impactful mysterious terrain features.
Yeah.
And the 3 that we picked was Damned, Arcane, and Mystical. So Damned is take D3 to get D3 mortal wounds to get +1 to hit. Yep. Arcane is +1 to cast, Dispel, and Unbind. And Mystical is +1 to chant, and you also get, what is it? A 6+ ward save if you're within an inch of it, wholly within an inch of it. So they're neat. So how do we do it? So there are 5 tables, like I said, right? So 5 tables that our teams are lining up on. 3 of those tables are going to have 2 pieces of damned scenery located 7 inches away from the center.
Okay.
Properly labeled. And then 1 table is going to have the same thing, except it's going to be arcane. And then 1 table is going to have the same thing, except it's going to be mystical.
Okay.
So now the teams are going to be like, oh, okay, if I have a Soul Blight list and I have a Von Karstein or an aggressive wizard, say Nagash is back in town, or heck, even Archaon, he can move into the center, get really close to an arcane piece of scenery, get +1 to cast. Now, is he the best wizard ever? No, but would it help? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Or he could take D3 mortal wounds to get +1 to hit, which is huge, without having to spend a CP. All of a sudden, now you still have access to all-out attack if you wanted to. Let's just say there was more negatives in play. And you still have access to all-out defense, AOD. So it's not a massive effect. It's not quite the same impact that the 40K setup would have, but it is something that the teams can weigh in on and kind of take in consideration while they're doing the process. Now, why is this important?
Yes.
Defenders get choice of table.
Now, by defender, we don't mean a defensive list, right? A defender is essentially in the pairing process. It's the list that gets put down first. Like, so you put down an army, and then two armies from your opposing army are attacking that list, and the defender gets to pick one of the lists that are attacking them to fight, and then the defender gets to pick a table. And so they get to go, okay, my poison is going to be playing against the dragons. However, I'm going to play on that table, which will hopefully give me a boost. That's kind of...
Or they just take it even further and say they notice that the other team has some phenomenal wizards and say, you know what, I'm going to scoop up the arcane table so it's not even in play because the dragon guy can't really take advantage of it either anyway.
Right.
But I'll help my team by taking that
away a bad table
play.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, is it the same mission, however?
It will be the same mission across all 5 tables.
Awesome. So you pick a mission. You're playing 5 missions, say, over the course of a GT weekend. So you all know what mission is. And one of the cool things about it as well is you will normally know who your opponent is and what lists they have. So you can usually take a few minutes to kind of go through your opponent's lists and kind of go, okay, I'm good. I could play that. I can't play this. I do well into that, or I'm terrible into this based on the mission you're just about to play. And that'll factor into what's called a pairing matrix, which you can build with your team if you want. And this whole pairing process that starts with us meeting up is knowing kind of, okay, the opposing team has a Nagash, has like an Archeon, has like a Plague Bearer spam, has like, or a Beast spam or whatever, has like this and that. Okay, and we have this, this, and this, and this. So we're going to try and make sure this happens, but nobody wants to play against the Sons of Bahamut because they're silly. Of course, this would have been back in the day. Or nobody wants to play against that. So who's going to go into the bus? Okay, let's try and get you, because you have the worst matchups into them. Let's try and get you to at least soak up the worst for all of us so we have a better chance at winning this game or whatever.
So the rest of the team can lift.
Correct. Okay, so we the other 2 tables, I'm assuming, don't have any terrain rules. So it's 3 that have rules and then 2 that just don't have any rules.
One table has arcane, and 1 table has mystical.
Okay.
So the 5 tables, each one has a different mystical terrain feature.
Yep.
3 of them will have damn.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, so let's dive in to our faux pairing process.
Are we glitching?
All right. It wasn't too bad. It is salvageable.
Yeah. This will be fun. All right.
Okay. So let's do it. You have your 5. You have your 5. Do you have? Do you just want to do factions basically, or do you want to do? Do you want to kind of use? Do you want to do attacker defender style, or like what style of list that we would have put down, basically?
Well, like in teams, you would have an idea of what I would have. So I'm just going to tell you what I have. Okay.
Okay. Hold on. Let me. I want to make my team real quick before you tell me what's in your team. So I don't want there to be any bias. Okay. I want you to.
All right. Fair enough.
To fair and square me, and can I take Leagues of Votan? Is that one of the ones I can take?
They would be amazing into AOS, aren't they?
They would be so good. Hey, can I take Land Fortresses, please? That'd be fantastic. Okay.
Oh,
God. Okay, number 1. That one will be okay. Then we're gonna go ahead and do. Okay. That would be. Then we're gonna go ahead and do.
So, while you're doing this,
yeah,
I will talk about how in teams play, a lot of the lists would be posted a month ahead of time, and like Ridvan said, all the teams would be practicing and figuring out exactly how they'd be doing their homework. They would be pairing into practicing those, and it's super critical to do so. In 8-person teams at Worlds with like 30 plus teams, that's a lot. And to do that on the fly, you will just not have a great time, or certainly your win record will suffer. Now, in a 5-person team, what we're doing is we're posting lists 2 weeks ahead of time.
Okay. Nice.
There's only going to be a max of 16 teams, so it shouldn't be too bad. And your team's going to be one of the 16. So it shouldn't be too bad to kind of line up a weekend before the actual event for you guys to all powwow, or 2 weeks just to crunch on TTS or whatever.
I absolutely love it. I think the more comfortable I get with team events, the more I only want to play team events for any format.
Team events is the best way to play any miniature game, period. Like, there is it is just such a fantastic. It allows for everything in the meta to be usable, playable. There's this whole mini game at the beginning that's so amazing. I love it. I love the prep. I love everything about it.
Okay, so I'm ready. What do you have in your roster? And then we'll go through.
All right, you already know what I got on my roster because you've known me for a little while now.
Gloom
So I
Spike
got
Gits.
Maggotkin.
Okay.
I got Maggotkin in my roster.
Which
I got
style of
Iron.
Maggotkin?
Oh, yeah. So we're just talking broad terms.
Okay, broad terms. Maggotkin.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'll get the specifics in a second.
Perfect.
So Maggotkin,
yeah.
Iron Jaws.
Iron Jaws. Okay.
You got it. Seraphon.
Okay. Oh, is the Monster Mash? Yeah.
Sons of Behemoth.
Yeah.
And Stormcast.
Okay. So this is what I went for.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead.
So I've gone for Sylvaneth. I've gone for Nighthaunt Death. I've gone for Beasts of Chaos, a Maggotkin, and a Daughters of King.
BOC and DOK.
And I've also written underneath them what style of list they would be of the 3 different ones that we decided to like categorize them each.
No problem. I'll go through mine right now. The Maggotkin list is a Beast of Zergle list.
Ugh, I played against that.
My favorite. Lots of beasts in Bellicor. Iron Jaws, it'll be Bloodtooths. So there'll be lots and lots of pigs. 1 or 2 Maw Crushers or an Idol or whatever variation there is. Seraphon list
Thunder
is going to be sure, we can make a Thunder Lizards. Why not? And that's all the dinos with skinks.
Yeah.
The Sons of Behemoth are a breaker tribe list with 3 breakers, and we're going to go with the Kron Spine.
Yeah.
And then the Stormcast list is dragons are still very, very good.
Fast.
And we're just going to go with dragons and bounty hunters, and we're going to put some liberators to castle up our long strikes.
I like it. That sounds great. So, what mission are we playing this round?
We're going to play a mission that has basically 3 objectives in the center. All right, so pick whatever favorite 3 objective in the center mission you would like.
Generic 3 objective center mission. Excellent.
You got it.
Okay, so the first now at the WTC and 40K, we each had to pick our first defender before rolling off for table pick. How are you doing it at your event?
Oh, you know what? I don't think that detail's been worked out. I think we got to do that. That's so. Explain to me why.
Because if you know that you have first table pick and there's a table you absolutely need, if you win the roll off to pick your table first, because there's 2 defenders, right? Like 2 lists that go down, and one of them has to pick a table first. If you have the ability to pick that one table that's really good or really bad for your opponent or for you, knowing if you have first or second pick, you can just quickly go, oh, I'm just going to put the Tau down because we have table pick, and I know that I could pick the light table, right? Whereas not knowing if you have table pick until after you put your first defender down means that if you really need that table, you're like leaving it up to a dice roll, which can be pretty spicy. But how do you want to do it for this exercise?
I kind of like the idea of us picking then rolling.
Yeah, me too, right? Because then you're like, I like that too.
Yeah.
Because then we don't know who gets to pick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have picked my first defender down.
I have also picked mine, and I'll just shout out mine immediately, and then then you echo with yours.
Yep.
I drop a list, and it will be Maggotkin.
Okay, so you've put your Maggotkin down. I have put my Nighthaunt down with Nagash.
Nice.
Excellent. So okay, so you win the roll-off. Okay, you get your table pick. Okay, so you're gonna pick the first table. I will pick the second table. Okay, so now from the 4 you have remaining, I have 4 remaining as well. I need to pick 2 of these that I think can get points off of your filthy beast list. Okay, Let's see. Let's see. By the way, I went with the 50 million plague bearers in my Maggotkin, not your filthy beast list. Okay, so I'm gonna go for this, and I'm gonna go for this. Okay, so I'm attacking you with my 2 already.
Yeah, and you got Night Haunt, so I'm gonna go with, even if you still have that. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna present you these 2.
Okay, you can shout them out because mine are down here already.
All right. So you will be presented with Seraphon.
Okay.
And Iron Jaws.
Okay, Seraphon and Iron Jaws. Excellent. Very cool. I have put down, to fight you, I have put down my Beasts of Chaos and my Sylvaneth as the ones that I'm going to throw at you. Which means you still have your Sons of Bahamut and your Stormcast Dragons in the pocket. I still have my Doors of Cain and my Maggotkin in my pocket as well. So now, from the ones that we've picked, we each get to secretly pick one to fight the defender, and then we reject one of the 2 that was put down secretly as well. So I'm going to go ahead and...
So I'm looking at Sylvaneth and what? Sorry?
Sylvaneth and the Beasts of Chaos.
Sylvaneth and Beasts of Chaos?
Yes. So
fair enough.
And I know what I'm going to be taking.
I also know what I'm going to be taking.
Okay, so I have rejected one and accepted one.
What will be interesting to see is why.
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell you
why. The why will be very, very cool.
I'll tell you why.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Okay, so what did you reject?
All right. I rejected the Beast of Chaos.
Okay, so you want the Beast to play the Sylvaneth because you want that one to be clogged up. The Sylvaneth are quite powerful. If that, you want to make sure that they get mortal wounded to death.
Well, you do yours.
Okay, I rejected the Seraphon.
And I'll tell you the other reason why I went with Sylvaneth for sure.
Yeah, I rejected the Seraphon, so no Thunder
Lizards. You didn't want Seraphon?
Crazy. Nope. So I'll tell you why mine. I rejected Seraphon because I have played against the Seraphon before, and I know the Maggotkin and the Doors of Cain would do okay against it. But I definitely know that those Iron Jaws would nuke something like my Daughters of Cain. And I just want to make sure that I'm nowhere near that when I start pairing that Daughters of Cain army. Like, that is one list that I just don't want to have to deal with. It's, like, nasty, fast, it's, like, really aggressive, and I just want to get it out of the way. I just want to get it out of the way. Just, and if anything can deal with it, it's Nagash and a bunch of Nighthaunt Ghasts. Like, just to go around and just be annoying. Because I don't care about your rend. All that stuff. It's just, in my opinion, it's a good defender to take it. Okay, why did you reject my beasts?
They are really, really mobile, and they're really, really good at objective taking. So if my job is to keep the scores tight, I will 100% take your Sylvaneth. And you're like, well, Sylvaneth score pretty well. They do on their battle tactics. But I'm going to be rocking and rolling on the primary. And my mechanics of my army actually do disrupt a lot of the mechanics in when I'm battling against Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth are a very elite army. I have maybe little nurglings that I can like block out trees that you can teleport to now. I'm going to be putting my beasts on all in the center of the board, scoring, and now you're going to have to come over and do something about it. Target priority is going to be an absolute nightmare because I'm 11 or 12
It's the same
beasts.
thing 12 times. Like, it's more like, which one do you shoot at? Like, there's
right.
just...
Yeah.
Gross.
And then Be'lakor is going to be messing around with your bowman unit, saying, maybe nope, or maybe it's going to be your scythe unit, whichever one. So I think it's not only a very good matchup, it's one I think I could keep very, very close for my team, and maybe even win it.
Yep, I could see you winning it.
Solid.
Yeah.
solid
Especially
chance of
because
winning it.
Sylvaneth don't have really more wound protection, like really. So like, especially if you get those charges in, like the amount of damage those beasts do if they can like pile in on something. I've seen it. It's brutal.
Oh yeah, it smashes through all your trees, no
Okay,
problem.
so moving on, we each have 3 left.
Ooh,
Okay.
wait.
Ooh. Okay.
Before we
Okay.
get into that,
Oh, table pick.
I want to talk about the why we picked the attackers we did, because that is a very, very interesting thing as well. So the reason why I went with Seraphon and Iron Jaws, I didn't think you were going to take my Seraphon because I didn't think that was going to be a matchup that you wanted to have. So why did I force my Iron Jaws as the one choice that you'd want to have? Because I figured no one else would want it either. I didn't see let's assume for a sec I didn't see a Cruciator in your list for whatever. The Iron Jaws actually play pretty well into. They have a mass amount of attacks that are multi-wound. So even though my rend is almost pointless, whatever 50-50 shot that makes through is typically doing 2, possibly 3 points of damage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an incredible amount of damage. At least that's what I'm counting on.
Yeah.
They're also extremely mobile and can hopefully knock you on the heels. And they're an alpha list as well.
So my attackers.
That was the thought. Is it a good thought? That was my goal anyway.
Yeah, no, I like it. It makes sense. Mine, of course, with Sylvaneth, I know can sneaky and fast and can do damage at range and in close combat. So it gives like flexibility to deal with all the beasts because it's like an MSU style build. It has lots of little things running around. It also scores battle tactics quite well with like the tree revenants and things if they're bouncing around and forces you to like do that. But the Beasts of Chaos, I saw them at the top of the meta rankings. So I said, why not put them into the beast stuff? I really don't know anything
They're
about Beasts
really
of
good.
Chaos. So all I know is
they're
that
really
they're
good.
supposed to be good. So I said, why not put them up there? Which works just as well.
I'm gonna actually just grab a damnation.
Okay.
Table.
I'll probably take the mystic one, so Nagash gets like super spells or whatever.
Arcane.
Yeah. Just to make him like juiced up. So with that, those 2 players would be ready.
Exactly.
Those 4 players would go. They have their 2 tables. They'd go. They know the mission. They're going to be starting to set up, or they might stick around until everything's done for a team chant. I have 3 left. You have 3 left. Now, the key here is we get to do that one more time, right? So we get to do 1 defender, but then there's not really a choice. It's the 2 that remain attack, the 2 that remain attack. So it's really the only choice you have is the one you put down. And then the ones that get rejected, right, are the ones that fight each other. So they don't have a choice. They just so there's 2 key points here. Number 1, which one do you put down? Number 2, which one do you reject, and which one do you think they're going to reject? To then try and figure out what's going to happen at the end, which is what we call the mix at the end here. Okay, so we also have only 1 special table left. What's the big table left with the stuff in the middle? You took the damned.
We've got 3 left, so we got mystical and 2 damned.
Okay, cool. Because you took one of the damned.
I did.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so we will go ahead and boop. Okay, I know what I'm putting down, and I know who is attacking.
Me too.
Okay, so what did you put down?
I went with Seraphon.
Okay, so you put your Seraphon down. Excellent. I put my Daughters of Cain down, and you put your Seraphon down. Okay. Now I get table pick this time. Because you had table pick first, then it's like snakes around. At least that's how we normally do it. So you have attacked my Daughters of Cain with your Behemoth and your Stormcast Dragons. And I have attacked with the Beasts of Chaos and the Maggotkin. Now, the biggest reason of that is I wanted to make sure that, actually, the reasoning will be after we reject everything. Then you'll figure it out. But let's each pick one and reject it. You said I totally did not do what you thought I was going to do, which is not always a bad thing, but it's sometimes not a good thing either. So my inexperience here might actually be throwing the experienced Lionel out for a loop, and I love it. Now I know he's either going.
I was hoping I was going to throw you off my Seraphon choice.
Yeah. To be honest, I thought you were going to put Seraphon or Behemoth down. Because the dragons are so strong, you probably want the dragons back at the end in the mix because they kind of do well regardless. You know what I mean? Because they're like hard hitting, they score lots of points, so they're like what we call a champion. You kind of put them at the end, and they can kind of fight whatever. Behemoth, decently as well. Got like some sort of crazy thing in it. Okay, so with the two choices I have in front of me, I want to reject. I will reject this one. Okay. Which one would you like to reject?
So I will take Magakin.
Yeah, you have to. I was really hoping you'd throw the Magakin at the end. Because that would do the opposite of what the dragons do. That would literally clog up the final game. Anyway, so I love it. I did reject the Sons of Behemoth. So I took the dragons with the daughters because I want to make sure that dragon list does not go into the final mix and get whatever it wants. So at the end we have Daughters of Cain versus Stormcast Eternals, dragons. We have Seraphon versus Maggotkin Horde, and then we have Beasts of Chaos versus the Sons of Behemoth. There we go. That is a pairing. So, how did the last 3 rounds go? What do you think with that sort of reasoning and how it might play out?
With Seraphon going into Maggotkin, there's an advantage Seraphon in the sense that the Bastillodons unlock extra damage versus demons. So in an army full of plague bearers and everything else, that should be advantage Seraphon. Now, what Maggotkin have going to him is we're playing a mission with 3 objectives in the center, so at least they'll be able to clog up those lanes. But the Seraphon just kick out an enormous amount of damage.
They do so much.
Yeah, they really, really do. With Sons of Behemoth going into Daughters of Cain,
into the Beasts,
that is actually
Sons of Behemoth
terrible matchup for my team.
Sons of Behemoth into Beast Claw Raiders. Beasts. Into Beasts. Yeah. Beasts
of Chaos. Sorry, it was Stormcast into Daughters of Cain, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So Stormcast into Daughters of Cain will also not be a terrible matchup for me.
No, the dragons are so good. They're just
long
killy.
Strikes can dance with the bows. The dragons will just house bounty hunters. It really all depends on the style of list. So that's interesting. And then Sons of the Beastclaw Raiders, there's no way Sons are going to stop Beasts of Chaos from scoring their battle tactics. They'll always be scoring it. But can they score the main objectives in the center of the table? That's a whole other universe entirely. They're not a massive output army either. And the Giants are going to be a big problem while they tussle in the center. So whatever variation of Beasts of Chaos you're doing, whether it's a bunch of your own monsters that you're summoning in to try and get there, the Suns will tank. And you know what? The Suns are one of my defenders. There's my dog. The Suns are one of my defenders, and if they lose the game, they're not going to lose by a lot. And I'm looking at my other matchups going, they should be able to win well handily.
Amazing.
So there you go.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Yeah.
In the first pairings I ever done for Age of Sigmar, victory Lionel in terms of the numbers. However, I did say I had the best team in AOS. So skill-wise, we could still make something happen. um, uh, which is really great. So Lionel,
I mean, it's one thing to win. Oh, sorry. It's one thing to win the mini game of pairings. That's all fair and good. You still got to actually
win the
win, though,
game,
right?
100%.
So the most you could possibly do, yeah, exactly. The most you could do as a captain is try to set up your players in the best possible position. There's still lots of lifting to do.
Oh yeah, 100%. And so Lionel, why don't you let everybody know where folks can find you? If anybody wants to sign up, you can go to the website. The link is down below. And are you planning on doing this more often or more team events so the folks can get involved, as well as where can they find your store before we finish up for the day?
Oh, you're being super nice. We ran a TGX for 40K, 40K event a few months back.
Yeah.
That was awesome. The 40K community was super amped for it. But we really want this to be something that's run on an annual basis for AOS as well, because the experience is just so huge. So by hook or by crook, we're going to be running this event. And so far, the team's super stoked to try and do it. We would love more teams get in there. I mean, even if you feel like, oh, matrices, this sounds crazy, insane, all the studying. Guys, this is a team event. You can just come out to the team event and just say, hey, you know what? The guy who wins the most on the weekend, we'll buy him a beer. We'll buy him dinner.
Yep.
You could turn it into a very fun thing too. Because the commiseration, I mean, one of the best parts about team isn't just all these cool little micro games. It's the camaraderie, the whole team building thing and hanging out with your buddies and having a great time.
Oh.
Like that's ultimately what really it's all about.
Great memories. Like every single time. It's just fantastic and I love it so much. Even if your job is to lose every game and not lose by a lot. And if you do your job properly, that's that you win and you lose as a team. There's no individual score. It's if you lose every game but your team wins, it still feels incredible that you did your job. You took the terrible matchup and your team did well. Highly recommend it. Make sure you check the link down below. There's only a few team tickets available remaining. But Lionel, thank you so much for coming down with me and helping explain how team events work, especially an Age of Sigmar style team event, with everybody who's out there and curious about how to play the game differently.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem. After all, I've been Skari, your grateful host. This has been Lionel, so make sure you check him out. The links are all down below. Signing off until next time. The Age of Sigmar kin. That's the new catchphrase. And
anyway, I thought it was Treekin.
Yeah. The Treekin. Yeah, that works too. Unless I'm playing Hedonites, and then it's just, more, please. Anyway, bye everybody. Have a good one.